In this video, we want to make some improvements to how our bullet cases eject. So currently, they just eject straight out. No real change in they don't flip or spin or anything like that. So that's what we want to change. So if we head over to Weapons, Weapon Effects, Bullet Cases, and open up our Niagara emitter, we can change the settings. So I'm going to just go to the beginning here so I can see the case. Uncheck orbit mode and just go to where I can easily see the case. So I want to make some changes. I want to have it uh, just go straight forward and to the right, not backwards and to the left. And then we're going to readjust the sockets that these cases spawn on. So if we go over here to add velocity, here we can change all that. So I'm going to go a little bit farther into the scene, to the animation, and get it to where it goes that direction. On the X, let's see, by default, that is 150. Let's go negative 150. And on the Y, let's do 100. Now it goes forward and to the right, like it should. So we compile and save, and let's check that out. That's going to be weird currently, so that's about right. However, the case is ejecting backwards, it looks like. Now let's go to Weapons, M1 Carbine, Animations, and open up the file. So here we can see the effect playing. It's ejecting properly. However, we go grab the root, then we rotate the mesh, we'll change it to world, to the Z. See, it's still ejecting out of the correct location, but the rotation's off. So thankfully we won't have to really worry about that because we're going to be just kicking up the case and it's going to be flipping. But we do have to make a fix to the Sturmgewehr. So this one's going in the exact opposite direction compared to the M1 carbine and the 1911. Out of curiosity, just want to make sure that this has the change. Oh, so we got to make some changes actually. So that's partially why. So here we have the 30 carbine case. Whoa. We're just going to go do the opposite. So add velocity, negative 180 and positive 150. Save it, and that'll make it eject the direction it's supposed to. Close that down. Let's go to our 45 auto, open that up. That's the texture. We're opening up the Niagara systems. This one, add velocity. We're going to do negative 150. The Y is 250, so that way it's forward and right. Get out of orbit. Let's go in the right direction. Then we're going to do the 8mm, which I believe this one is already set because it should be the parent. Yep. So negative 150, 100, 250. So we're good. Now if we look at it, see it's going the wrong direction. Let me zero out the Z, and let's start adjusting the socket. Socket case eject. Let's rotate it at 0. Let's go to 90, or negative 180. Now it's throwing them straight on the ground. Go to 95. Good bit better. Pretty happy with the height on that. Now it's just going to the rear. We're actually going to flatten this out. Read it along that axis so I can get it going at the forward angle. I figure that'll be easier to adjust this direction. Right, that's too far forwards. And that'll work. Now we just grab the, whoops, what axis is this? Problem is it adjusts everything because we're in a local space. It's throwing them a little high, so we just tilt you down. And that's pretty decent. It's shooting them out. I'm going to go a little higher. Back just a little bit. So that's how they're ejecting now. Pretty happy with that. Go back to Sturmgewehr. Ooh, we gotta make some changes to this socket now. So same thing, we're just going to rotate. Actually, rotate along this axis by 90. Another 90 for 180. Farther. There we go. It's shooting back, so let's angle it forward some. It's pretty much right out the side. So I like that. It's throwing them just more up than anything, so that's good. Now let's check the 1911. Same thing. Then just rotate it around by 180. Now I want it to go mostly up. So back just a smidge. So I'm pretty happy with that. Make it go out just a little more. Like so. So now let's just look. I want to lower the Sturmgewehr a good bit because that just looks awkward. So I'm going to rotate you down a good bit, just a smidge up and out. Now let's look. All right, pivot you down just a little more. And look. Happy with that. So we're just going to do a save all. One thing I do want to do, actually I'll do that. Not too worried about that right now. Let's go back to our case eject, and here we can alter some stuff. So under particle update, let's go ahead and add a new. Just search for rotation, solve rotational forces and velocity. Drop that down. Here we have the rotational velocity. So if we do a search for multiply, we can see multiply vector by float. So here's the vector, and we can kind of see the rotation at which it goes. As you can see now, it's dropping the nose forward. It's hard to see, but if we crank this up to like 90, see the rotation. So we want to actually, unfortunately, this applies the rotation pretty well, the force pretty much per frame. So what we want to do is search for curve, and we're going to do vector from curve. So here we have it. It starts at 1, works its way down to 0, so it's the same thing as the initial value before. To select the first portion, crank that value up to 90. See, it will kick out, and it should gradually slow down. So if I check the M1 carbine, oh, if I saved it. As you can see, they kick out, and they very slowly will slow down. So I want to grab the stopping point. The time for you, it's half it, so 0.5 and 0. See, now they stop rotating. Now we can just randomize kind of the X, Y, and Z. I don't know which one I have selected, but I'm just going to do 110, grab another 50, and leave it. So now let's look. Kind of gives that random, sort of normal rotation to it. So I want to change how it stops. So it stops ending at that weird angle. Grab you. Stops. So I'm going to do the exact opposite. Just drag you down, whichever value this is, green. And now they're pretty much flat. So now let's look. See, they get kicked out and they have some rotation to them. That might be a little aggressive for the values. Let's make sure the time's on 0. So for value, I'm just going to kind of do it by half. So we're at 50. Let's go to 25. We're at 90. Click it. So we're going to do 45. Then 110. So we're going to do 55. So that should kick it out slower, which it does. To add, let me zoom in. Add a key to all curves. This will be the ending point, so I want to make it not quite as aggressive, but this time at 0.5. So I want the speed to be lowered pretty quickly. So I'm going to do 0. Or 0.1. Let's go to 0.2. I like that better. All right, so that works out. However, I want it to stop rotating a little sooner. So I want to take this last value here, change the time from 0.5 to 0.4. All right, I like that a good bit better. Now I just got to change its finishing rotation a bit so it's flatter. Take the initial velocity of one of these, let's drag it down to like 0.20. And that's pretty flat. So Set the time to 0 for that key. Save it. So now it should be landing pretty flat. Like so. I'm pretty happy with that. We could add some randomness to it as well, but that's not too big of a deal. So I believe can, let's see, what can we do to the curve? Search for range. Let's see what it does. Right, so that's not quite what I want. So I'm going to reset that. Be a way we could multiply, alter the curves. I guess we could make new parameters and just give it the parameter a random value, so that way they kind of have random starting points for the rotation. But that's not too big of a deal. So that way they just end in a random rotation. And they kick out differently each time, but I'm not too concerned about it. I'm going to close all that, save all. Just one more quick look. Easier to see this guy. I like that a good bit better. It's no longer just completely straight out, even though they do end up in the same rotation each time. It's because the starting rotation is different, or is that it doesn't follow along with the starting rotation of the socket that it's attached to. Now, the only other thing I want to do is I want to open up each animation. Oh, derp. And click each notify. I want to trigger on dedicated server. I want to uncheck for everything. Save it and confirm that it still works, which it does. So because the dedicated server won't actually see the effect, and the effect is nothing other than play audio or effects, we don't need it to fire on dedicated servers. We do the same thing for every single event. Uncheck trigger on dedicated. All right, let's move on to the M1 carbine. Exact thing. A little bit tedious, but doesn't really matter too much anyways, because I'd have no plans for creating any sort of dedicated environment for this to play in. But it's one of those just in case things. But think of this as optional. Alrighty, all those are now disabled, and we are good to go. So now that that's over with, yeah, as they were pretty much, I think we're actually completely done with our weapon system for the most part. The only thing we would have to do is alter things like impact effects. Well, create some impact effects, which that will be worked on in a later video, because that's not too big of a deal right now. Because if we need to kind of rework a little bit, I think the main thing we need to focus on is the points and how they're handled on the client. Because currently, like for instance, buy something on the client, again, my points start out at 500. They should be 5,000, so that's an issue. It takes forever for the points to go back down. So I shoot until it's instant when I get the points, but the points value doubles if I purchase the M1 carbine. So this costs 600. Takes a bit for it to come out. Purchase again. It's also costing me, I think, 600 points to purchase the ammo, so it's not buying the ammo. Well, it is, but it's what do you call it? It's, I can't think of the name, but it's giving me the price, the weapon, so that's an issue. So that'll be something to be fixed as well. So let me confirm that. We're at 4,400. Oh, nope, that's just a bug on my part. I click on the M1 carbine. Ammo costs 200, so I think, yeah, I just realized a bug that I had to write down. So we're using the cost value for the ammo, not ammo cost. I'm guessing the same thing with the Sturmgewehr. Yeah, we're doing the exact same thing. So that's a bug that we're gonna have to fix. So anyways, now that our bullet casings are a little bit better, I'm not really happy with them, but I'm still learning Niagara. So this will probably be a update, well, video to be updated whenever we move on to the actual polishing of the game. So as usual, if you like what I'm doing and you want to help support me, a link to my Patreon's in the description. If you have any questions or anything like that, feel free to hop in my Discord server that is linked below. And see you in the next one.